Hey, what's up, bookworms? We are back with another talk about nothing. And my guest this week, you guys might have heard of her. Is it Kayla or Kay? Which one do you prefer?
So I get that all the time. And either is fine. By day, I go by Kayla. I guess by booktube, I go by Kay. The channel name Kay started with SEO research,
Nice.
basically, and trying to figure out my channel name.
And it recommended Kay over Kayla.
Essentially, when I searched Kayla, there was a never-ending list of Kaylas
Ah,
in booktube, so I decided to shorten it, and there was no one named Kay, so
hmm.
figured why not, and it's kind of stuck.
Yeah, with a name like Mike, it was pretty hard to kind of differentiate. Honestly, that's the one thing I could go back and change. It would be the channel name because, I did. This was like a plan to be like a side thing for what I was already doing podcasting wise. So, anyway, guess it worked out. It's too late to change now. But guys, if you don't know Kay, she does have a booktube channel. I really got to know her a little bit while we were on the read along on the Discord, the readathon. And I said, that is a very nice person. I like to have nice people on the channel. And I got to say right off the bat, I love your sweater collection. I know it's a lot colder where you are. I'm in Houston. We see cold maybe 3 months a year, so we don't need that many sweaters. I know you're up in the Great White North, so things are a little colder there. But I always see like your Afghans and stuff, and it takes me back to like my childhood when grandma would make like the Afghans. So it just feels cozy. It's a cozy feel on your channel, and I appreciate those things.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, my goal in life is to remain cozy. My
Mm.
blankets, my sweaters. If I don't have to dress, in jeans, if I can get away with leggings, absolutely. It's like the best version of getting, don't have to wear your pajamas. They're the next best thing, right? If you want to go out and stay cozy.
Yeah, I've said that about like working from home. They let us work from home 2 days a week and work in the office 3 days a week. And I was like, look, I love working in the office place. You get away from kids. I like my workspace up there very well. I like to actually talk face to face with coworkers instead of over Teams. But I also like pajama pants, and so it's just, I like not commuting. That's really great too. So there's
That's
a nice little
good.
balance there, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's, kinda nice where I don't know what it's like where you're at, but, here they're starting to do, a bit of half and half, half at home, half at the office.
Right.
Um, so that kinda helps people get both best of both worlds.
I think so. I think so. So something I always like to ask people when they
Yeah.
come on here is I feel like book readers as a whole are usually pretty introverted, pretty shy, usually. And I just noticed like in the last few years, I mean, myself included, it just seems like this booktube thing just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. There's so many more people jumping in. So I always like to ask people, what was it that made you say, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna turn this camera around, I'm gonna record myself and I'm gonna put it on this YouTube thing I've been watching for a while now. What was the moment when you said, I'm gonna do this? Okay, I think I can do this.
Yeah, it was being a stay-at-home mom and not working for the first time since I was, like, 15 and needing an outlet.
Mm. Right.
I had been watching BookTube since about 2019, and I loved watching all the different channels. I got so many like, look at all the books I've gotten over the years from watching BookTube, and
A
I've
dangerous
found
hobby for sure. Yeah.
for the wallet, absolutely. And I mean, I've met amazing friends throughout the community, and I was active in Discord, and one day I had been thinking about it for a while, and my fiance is like, "You have 0 excuses anymore. Yeah,
Mm.
you're
Yeah.
not working. You've got some downtime, with naps and stuff. Maybe give it a go." So, I ran out of excuses to not do it,
Mm.
I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah, kind of similar here. Was company I was working for got acquired, went back to school full time. So I was the stay at home dad doing school full time and stuff. And I was like, I need some adult conversation. And that's when I started doing this and had no idea it would actually do quite well. But yeah, it was one of those things like I would probably never would have done it if I had just been working my regular work schedule and stuff. And then always thought that when I went back to work, this would stop. But when I went back to work, it didn't even slow down. It's weird. It's weird. I think you just become addicted to it, right? It becomes like your I don't know. I don't want to say like it sounds real loserish to say, "Oh yeah, these are my real friends." It's these are people you're never going to meet. But I feel like I've made great friendships while doing this, and I don't feel bad about saying that. It's not like I'm saying, "Oh yeah, you got to meet my online girlfriend. She lives in Russia. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, like, I feel like I've made great friendships because I don't know anybody in real life that reads the stuff I read. They all read, if they do read at all, which is rare, it's like James Patterson or Nora Roberts or something. It's nothing that I'm going to be able to think about. Like, well, you reading one of your little dragon books again? Ha ha. So
Yeah.
it was a great outlet for me. And just know that these are my people. I feel like I found my people.
Well, that's it too, right? Like, I don't read Lee Child, all their numerous amounts of books. The library here is very minimum, not a whole lot of options for fantasy or sci-fi readers. So, you kind of go through that quick. And all the book clubs are Oprah's picks of the
Oh,
month or
yeah.
whatever it is, which is fine and dandy, but that's not what I want to read.
Yeah. Yeah. It's rough. It's really rough. So, when you started your channel,
Mm.
really, guys, I guess you would say, like, for me, Wheel of Time was kind of what I was starting off with. What was kind of like what were you really going through when you first started your channel? What was like your beginner series, I guess you'd say, that you were kind of reading to a public audience?
Oh, that's
Were you
that's
really into
going.
series at the time?
Well, see, that's not big series. No, I was reading a lot of trilogies at the time, and because I had been reading for some time already, I was just continuing with what I was reading and going, "Hey, I read a book. Um, you might want to read it."
Mm,
I probably the one that comes to mind that was the most significant for me was the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. I think that trilogy was the I think I started that as a read along with Evie from She Was Only Evie
mm.
and a couple other channels that they were doing. And it was a lot of fun. It was actually my first live show, and that was as nerve wracking as it sounds.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that series. What's that series about?
So
Oh, you're like
the
Andrew. You're always going to be able to just turn around and grab it and show me. All right. Yeah.
the only problem is my arms are shorter, so I
Yeah.
have a I only have a certain reach. The first book is The Bear and the Nightingale. It's about a young girl. It's a Russian retelling of folklore, and basically, eh, I suck at describing books, but it is a young girl who doesn't fit the social norms of like medieval Russia.
Okay.
So she struggles with her family a little bit. There's fairy tales in here, and I would compare it to a bit of Neil Gaiman
Okay.
in sense of the darkness with the fairy tales.
Okay.
So yeah, it's her story, and it goes through three different journeys in
Well,
each book of the trilogy.
it's a good thing that being a booktuber doesn't mean you need to describe books very well. So I mean,
That's what Goodreads is for.
I get that, because I'll do my little format and I'll talk about, what is it about, and people are like, oh, great job, just like reading the back cover. I'm like, that's exactly what I did. I was like, I mean, don't you think when you're doing non-spoiler reviews, you would just read the back cover to tell someone what the synopsis is? Why would I write my own? I don't know. It's weird. Weird.
That's why with the TBR videos,
Mhm.
and I think it was Alan. Alan just eventually went, I'm reading this, and then one day he's just like, I'm just reading the back of the covers,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and just kind of tipped off from there. But yeah, it's just us reading the back.
I mean, like, you asked me about what something's about, I can kind of give my own kind of spiel, but I'll end up just
Mhm.
rambling and you tell you way more probably than you need to know about, why to read it. But yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
do you wanna know about just this book or the whole arc throughout the trilogy? How deep do we wanna go down this rabbit hole?
I mean, it's an open microphone here. You can say whatever it is you like. But what are you reading right now?
I am reading The Revenge of Thousands by Michael Roberti. It is a novella, and it is a prequel to his main series, which is The Traitors We Are, I believe. See if I can pull it up. But I just needed something a little short, and it is definitely full of revenge
Hmm.
and action. Almost has one of those medieval fantasy feels to it. I don't know
I
if
do
the
like me a
camera
good
picks it
revenge
up.
tale. Yeah. You got an Oasis too? Yeah, I get the Oasis. It's great.
Yes. I take my reading very seriously. Thank you.
No, I mean, here's the thing is, like, I was real big traditionalist around the time I started this channel. I'm only reading physical. I'm not doing any of this. And I would read on my iPad occasionally, which is just terrible for your eyes. But that's what led me to making those Kindle videos, was just kind of like real time. I'm going to switch to a Kindle. But I really did it because distraction. When I was reading on my iPad, I'd always be like, "Oh, let me look up this one thing," and next thing I know, I'm checking on my social media. I'm not. It's been 30 minutes since I've read, and that was the whole point about me being like, put your phone in another room because I get all the time. I'm sure you get too. How do you read so fast? Well, you put your phone down and you go read, and I will. I'll just put it in another room because we just reach for it all the time. Don't even think about it. And so when I bought the Kindle, I said, you know what? This is nice because being a Stephen King and a Brandon Sanderson reader, it's nice to read these in bed, not without a brick or traveling, to just be able to take that Oasis with you everywhere. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a library in your pocket, basically.
Plus,
Right?
my wife always goes to sleep before me. She's always like, turn your light out. And I'm like, I can't read if I turn my light out. So I can read that in the dark. It's great. Yeah,
That
worked out.
that was my big sales pitch, was being able to read after my partner goes to bed.
Medic's got that series. All right. Well, Medic has read just about everything, or he
Ooh,
or he will read just about everything. That guy's a maniac. He's a maniac.
I hope you
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Lots of people here. All right. Look at this influencer.
Oh,
Influencer. All right.
nice. I definitely don't think of myself like that, but I'm very happy people are reading books.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you an Abercrombie reader?
I am, yes.
Oh, the
I
news about them making a movie of Best Served Cold that just dropped like earlier today.
So here's my question. Are we excited or are we
I
nervous?
want to be. I've made this comment recently that where I said like I used to be like so excited, like praying, begging for them to make these things, and then when they now I'm like I'm begging for them not to make them. The only thing that's optimistic about this is Tim Miller is a huge fan of the books. Joe
Right.
Abercrombie's written the script, and I mean, who doesn't love Rebecca Ferguson? I mean, she's great. So hopefully, I always hope for the best, expect the worst with these things, but I would love for it to do really, really. I think if there is a standalone book of his that would work as a movie, it would be this one because I think his original trilogy, would have to be a series. You couldn't do those in movies, but I'm hoping it does well, and then we see that there's interest in that brand of dark, twisted humor, I guess you would call it. Then maybe we'll get to see an adaptation of First Law. But I mean, I've been waiting for them to make Joe Abercrombie stuff since, gosh, I've been reading them since 2009, 2008.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I would love for this to. I would love for it to work out. I mean, so far it's like with me when it comes to fantasy adaptation, I'm always just like, if it works, it works. I'm just not going to plan on it. I mean, everybody's like, why weren't you excited about Witcher? Why weren't you excited about Wheel of Time? I was just like, I've seen it fail too many times. I was like, when they first made a Game of Thrones, I was like, okay, well, that's actually pretty dang good. I can't believe they pulled it off. I didn't expect it to. Same with Lord of the Rings. I mean, I was in the theater to see Lord of the Rings, the first movie, and I mean, we're about an hour into it. And I was like, I can still go downhill, just
That's
because
true.
the adaptations is always so bad with fantasy. So I mean, I don't know. I hope with the right people in charge of it, and there's people who care about it. I'm just not convinced that the people who are in charge of a lot of these things care about the property. I really don't. I mean, they chased Henry Cavill off The Witcher because they refused to follow the source material. I mean, okay, it makes a lot of sense. Let's chase off our A-list Hollywood star because we refuse to follow source material. And in Wheel of Time, it's just like, how can we make it our own?
And that's the problem, right? They're not thinking of the fan base that already exists. They're
Mhm.
thinking about how can I be creative with this, which
Right,
which is
right.
fine, but you already have an available fan base that is willing to spend all their money on this. If you change it too much, you are going to potentially end up with mob and pitchforks,
Mm.
right? And you're going to lose all that potential revenue. So, in terms of business, it seems like a bad tactic.
Sure, sure. And that I'm gonna do a video. I have been planning a video about this about why they can't get fantasy adaptation right. And I think a big part of it is that they feel like what you just said is they feel like, oh well, actual fans, they're gonna be there regardless. I mean, even if it's not even recognizable, they're gonna be there regardless. So they just kind of take that the built-in fan base for granted. And it's like, I'm not one of those things. It doesn't have to be a page for page adaptation. I mean, Song of Ice and Fire wasn't a page for page adaptation, but it was pretty damn close. There's some things they changed to make things more workable, I guess, for TV. But I don't know. Just like Wheel of Time, like that's like in name only. I don't even understand what you were thinking with some of these changes. It makes no sense at all. So if it makes sense for the screen, I get it. But I mean, I look at something like I just read and rewatched Lonesome Dove. Amazing adaptation, damn near page for page, and it's incredible. And it's just like, why is it so
Nice.
hard? I don't get it. These things are popular for a reason.
Yeah. Well, that's it, right? They're popular for a reason. You could simplify this, but everyone's got their own artistic take on something, and I mean, they might think it works, but
Mm.
Maybe it's a matter of, does it work for an audience who's not already in the fan base? Is that what they're trying to capture? As fans who would typically not watch this stuff, but they want to kind of convert them over.
Mm.
Don't know.
You watching anything right now? Anything you wanna brag on?
Uh,
Or you like me?
Not
You get so wrapped up in other things, you don't have time to watch anything anymore?
pretty much. I'm in the middle of a couple of series, and I don't know when I'm gonna get back to them. Yeah. At this point, I'm lost in books and a couple video games, and that's the extent of the free time that I have.
Right. No, the new Zelda game came out, that's been kinda dominating our time. We're big Zelda fans in this house, but that and books, but we did speed run through the to make sure we got to the end of Succession to watch the finale and not have it spoiled for us, so
Oh, yeah.
Succession, it's like one of my favorite shows on TV, and it's over now, so I'm very, very sad about that, but it ended really well.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
good to know.
so there's that, but, outside of that, no. I mean, we've been watching Silo a little bit. Silo, as we said, like Rebecca Ferguson. I read that first book of Silo, and I liked it, but I didn't really continue the series. But that series is so good. I'm thinking about continuing with those books here in a little
Oh,
bit. It's pretty good.
nice, and my TBR just continues to grow, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I mean, that's the thing is when I started this channel, that shelf behind me was the only shelf I had. Now this
Okay.
whole room is wall to wall shelves, so it happens. It happens that way.
Yep, and I'm sure the list of books that you still wanna read are well beyond
Oh,
that.
it's madness, and that's the thing is, like, now I'm starting to get more interested in self-pub, and, I'm just like, "Well, God, when?" And I feel bad because there are books I really wanna read, and there are, indie authors who sending me these things, and I'm just like, "Man, I want to, I can't. I can't
Yeah,
I can't just keep putting off all the stuff I've been putting off for years." I was like, "If you wanna send it, it's great, man. I will read it. I just can't tell you when. It could be next
mm,
week. It could be 3 years from now." I can talk about that Mike Shackle. He sent me We Are the Dead back in 2000. I just read it this year, So I was
oh,
like,
wow, yeah.
I'll never say I never, but it's like I don't know when, man. It's especially now that I'm reading these dragon books by Ryan Cahill, and book 3 is like it
A
makes Lonesome
brick?
Dove seem small. It's wild. So I think I saw Alan's here. Wow, Alan's here. How about that? He's
Hello,
graced us with
hello.
his presence. It's amazing. All right.
Honored.
Yeah, I know, right? So it seems like we see most of the same community here, right? There's a lot of the same
Mm,
people. Derry,
absolutely,
right? Derry's one of the
absolutely.
best.
She was my competitor in the
Ah,
readathon.
I know. I felt so bad I couldn't finish that last book, which ironically was Philip's book. Where we had a family vacation at that time, and I was like, they're not going to let me. They're not going to let me read. So
Yeah.
I was short a few points. How many did we? How many did we end up losing by? Was it close?
Uh,
Was my one book the reason we lost?
yes,
Yeah.
is the
Damn.
answer.
It.
No, I don't quite remember, but, honestly, with the amount of team members that were participating and the amount of books that were read, I was blown away by everyone because there were people in there who said I only read 1 or 2 books a month, and they ended up reading 4 or 5. So, kudos to everyone on that team because, I mean, if you come in and you say, "I typically only get 1 book a month in," and you read 5 for that month just to help your team get points, you're a superstar.
Yeah.
And I mean, minus a book, not so much. No, I'm kidding. But no, family time is important.
Oh, it's a big old time. This community is amazing. It really is. I was actually kind of surprised because before this, I did sports stuff for like God a decade, and I'm sure you know how sports fans can be. I don't know how they are in
Mhm.
Canada. They aren't as nice here when it comes to sports stuff.
I
And
mean, you get the right people in a game, and it's not gonna be so pretty.
uh, they get really cussy at hockey games. I mean,
Yeah, they can.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I went on into did like media and stuff, and I mean God, it's even worse. Like movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And when I started doing this, I was like blown away. I was like, told my wife, I was like, wow, like 99% of the comments I got are like super, super positive. And she goes, that's because stupid people don't read. But it really did blow me away when I got this. I was like, wow, this is like Sure, you still get that, nasty comment every once in a while. That's just the internet. That's going to happen. You can brush that
Mhm.
off. But I was just blown away by how supportive and how nice the community was when I first started doing this. And then, of course, other creators were just like, I don't feel like it's competition at all. Everyone's just like,
No.
look, we all love books. What are we competing about? Hey, that's why I always try to do this and have someone who has a channel a little smaller than mine to say, hey, check out this new person that's on the rise. Kay has busted 1,000 subs this year. It's going to keep
Thank
going
you.
up. So you guys make sure you go down to the link below and you subscribe to her channel because she needs you guys to tell her more things to read because she doesn't have enough books yet.
No.
She's scrambling for ideas.
Yeah, I need a book a day.
At least, at least.
No, thank you. Honestly, it's really appreciated, and even just having these bookish chats, like you said, there's no competition.
Hmm.
We're here to chat about the things we love, and that's reading, that's books, that's everything books have to offer, and just, nerd out. So, I'm always happy to have a chat and just have a good time.
Yeah. Like I said, it's nice to have a community where most people are just
Mhm.
killing you with kindness. Like, I mean, I wish I could respond to all the comments I get this way. That's why one of the things I did when I first started this, I said I want to make sure I engage with every single person. And I went back to work. I don't have the time anymore because I never expect the channel to get as big as it did. So it's one of those things I still try to do it. But I think if I just stayed off of Discord, if I hadn't created a Discord, maybe because you want to talk about time. I spend more time on Discord than I ever spent on Twitter. Ever.
Yep.
So it's yeah.
It's a big time sink,
Yeah.
and before I started my channel, it was fine because I didn't have to worry about the time that goes into recording videos, editing the videos, writing the reviews in a way that I'm happy with, and all that time I could just socialize on Discord and not have to worry about anything, and now I'm a mod or an admin on 2 of them, and, uh, I have to do all that extra stuff.
Right.
So trying to balance that is, yeah. I could be reading. That's all I'm gonna
Right.
say.
Right. And that's the thing. I have to eventually just be like, all right, I just gotta. I say I have three big hobbies. It's reading, TV, and video games. Right.
Mhm.
I can only have time to have two of those. So I got to pick one. So right now it's reading's locked. Obviously, that's something I'm always going to do. It's always been my favorite thing. So right now it's video games. And would have watched TV if it wasn't for that Succession finale. But yeah, it's wild. And I got kids.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure they don't be like, who's this dad guy? You know, I want to make sure they actually know who I am. So I get that a lot. People ask me, how do you find all the hours in the day or whatever? And I was like, just you don't doom scroll Twitter, don't
Mhm.
you don't waste your time watching like 9 TV shows a day. You'd be surprised how much time that you do have if you just, I don't want to say apply yourself because that just sounds. I'm married to a teacher, so I feel like I want to say that. Apply yourself. I don't know. It's just if you divvy up your time and people don't realize, oh, well, TikTok's great because they're only 1 minute videos. It's like, yeah, but you've watched them for an hour. How is that any different?
Yep. I think when I went into this, the mindset I had was I will do what I have time for. If
Mm,
I don't have time for it, then I'm not gonna do it. That's essentially it. Because when I started, my son was about a year old. So he was still in the whole phase of, "You have to watch this kid and make sure he doesn't get into any trouble,"
right.
right? They're
Drinking the brain out.
toddling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, toddling along. Oops, I fell because 'cause I'm clumsy and don't have center of gravity. Um,
That
but,
doesn't change.
yeah. Good to know. But, so yeah, like, everything I do, I try and do when he's sleeping, right? If that's all the time you have, you get very efficient at managing your time.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
People tell you you're supposed to sleep when they sleep. It's like, well, when am I supposed to get stuff done?
exactly.
You know? Cole, I'm on the Discord plenty. I just look. And I don't know if you're talking about my Discord or you're talking about the Keymark Discord. I was talking to Bo today, and I was like, man, because I wanted to ask him if it was okay for me to post a link that you and I are going to be talking tonight,
Oh,
since
yeah.
you're such a divine influence on that server. And he's like,
Thank
of
you, but
course, of course. He's like, that's kind of the same rule I have. It's like, I would love people to share their content. We just ask that you be a part of the community somewhat. Don't just come dump your link and never talk to anybody.
Yep.
And I just always like, I mean, I wish I had time to visit all these because everybody's got a Discord now, and I'm everybody, and I encourage them to. It's great, but it's hard to follow each one of them. It's not like Twitter where it's just open and you can see everybody's stuff. I wish you could create your own Discord feed like that. Where you could see everything, but it would be too much really for me. But I can't even keep up my own Discord. I mean, people won't even join my Discord anymore because they say, "Oh, it's too big. There's too many people." And I'm like, "Tell me about it. It's mine. It's mine. I can't even converse with everybody." So yeah, just you make your
Uh,
choices. Do you guys want me to talk on Discord all day, or do you want me to make videos and read? Because I got to do one or the other.
and this is why when, uh, a year into my channel and the option came up, do you want to do a Discord? Absolutely not. There's way too many, and I can just help someone else with their Discords and be a present there.
You might know this one.
Yes. Hi, Evie.
Hey, yeah, yeah. Dump your link. That should be me. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
it's why I just think it's weird. It's talk about how great a community this is, and it's like I feel like if you just talk to some people, get to know them, they're going to want to watch your videos. They're going to want to know more about you. But if you just like are a faceless stranger who just dumps your links and just goes to the next Discord and dumps your links, I don't think anyone's ever really excited to click those things. I don't know. It feels weird to me.
Yeah.
So, I don't have very many rules on my Discord. That's the only one, So it's it's weird.
That's fair. That's entirely fair. You want them to be active and at least, get to know the people
Sure, sure.
that
So
could be
you said
watching their
you said
channel.
you're a gamer too. Is your husband a gamer?
He is. He's actually playing the Tears of the Kingdom right now.
I can
And
relate.
so my gaming time has gone down.
So you aren't playing with him?
No, well, it's one player, right?
Yeah, but me and my wife take with the thing with that game is those new Zelda games. You get so frustrated with them. What we would do started doing is one of us gets like overly frustrated, we just hand the control to the other person because it's challenging sometimes. But yeah, we share with those things. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice when when both people in a relationship play games because it can be really one of those where you'll start to get a little animosity if one person is and one person is not. So I always say the couples that
Yeah.
play together stay together. And it's always worked for us, but yeah,
I mean, sharing a hobby in general,
sure,
right? If you
yeah.
can share one hobby. But yeah, the gaming, he doesn't seem to get frustrated that easily with them. He just plows right through and he calls
I
himself a
think
pro gamer, which is great. But then I'm like, all right, well, I'll just
I think my
I'm
thing
gonna
is
read.
I have such little time to game. I don't have time for overly
Mm.
difficult bullshit. So I'm like, put it on easy mode, damn it. I got to get back to this book I'm reading. Hey, Evie says I should ask you about how you ref cage matches.
I incite chaos.
Huh.
I don't know if that's what
Go
you
for
mean
fire.
by the reffing part, Evie. Yeah, the cage matches are it's a series we've been doing with Evie, Tori from Tori Talks,
Mhm.
and Trisha Meredith or Patricia Meredith. And basically, we're reading classics and then having live show discussions about them. But um, we and Evie, maybe you can put this in the comments. I don't know where the name came from for the cage match, but I think we were anticipating it to be completely opposite opinions and a debate on whether or not whose opinion was better on the classic as more of a joke. But yeah, in terms of when people get into uh, let's say friendly differences of opinions on books, I am the person who sits there and will plug in little phrases here and there to kind of keep it going. It's a little voice of chaos in the background.
So, well, most people are like, let's take it easy, guys. You're just like, yes, go, let them fight.
Yeah. So long as it stays friendly. If it gets a little more than that, then yes, I will
So you
I will
guys are reading class. What classic you doing?
Right now we're doing Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen.
Okay.
And I'm new to Austen. I've only read Emma, so I'm getting used to the storytelling, the writing style. But yeah, it's been fun. I think we've done not it was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And Evie, remind me on the first one we did because I'm blanking on that.
You guys are doing Wuthering Heights. I love Wuthering
Oh
Heights.
yes,
I feel like that one is just so divisive. Man, I love it. I love it.
and that's where the cage match comes in. So we actually did discuss Wuthering Heights. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, they do a monthly classics on my server, and some of them, most of them I've read, but they do sometimes I'm just like, Yeah, that never would have been on my radar. I read what Call the Wild. I try to do at least one a year now. It's hard with doing this, but I used to read a lot more of them. But yeah, one of my most popular videos actually is 14 classics that I loved, and I think it's because everybody says like, oh, if they make you read a classic in high school, that's why you hate it. And I'm like, tons of classics I read in high school I love. Sure, there's some I didn't like I hated Moby Dick. And Moby Dick like scarred me to a point where I don't like nautical books like at all anymore. Besides Live Ship Traders, that's about the only one that really worked for me. But
Interesting. Yeah.
there's lots of classics. I mean, I love, and I think that video was really, really inspiring to me because apparently I got an email from a professor of literature at Rutgers University, and he told me that they were going to be doing some classics on their lead, and his students were really like just like bummed out about having to do it. And he showed them my video in his class, and there were people that were very excited to read a lot of the books I talked about. There, to me, that was like that's just the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. Thank you so much. That just like made my week. It was just such an awesome thing. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of modern readers are just like they take a crap on classics, and I'm like, man, this is the pillars, you guys. What are you doing?
I I mean, they're intimidating,
Sure.
right? It's a different read from your typical fantasy or sci-fi. I can't remember where I heard it, but it really helped me to read classics better, and that is this. Let's just say what War and Peace
Mm.
taught me how to read differently, how to read classics because it's a completely different experience. You're not going into incredible gritty battles where there's magic and people flying around and all these things happening. You're going into more realistic situations and history. You're getting into some long-winded scenarios that will pay off at the end, but it takes about 1,000 pages to get there in some cases. So it's a completely different way of reading, I would
Sure.
think.
It's funny because you mentioned that as like War and Peace, the one that I said I don't think I'll ever read. I never say never, but I was like that's the one where I'm like I don't know if I have any interest really to read that one, and I don't know why. I've read longer books. I don't know. I've never read that author, and I don't know. I don't know if it would click for me. I don't know. It's just it's up in the air with me when it comes to classics. Some of them I absolutely love, and some of them just like, well, that didn't need to be 800 pages, but there are some that's like that long. Like Count of Monte Cristo is one of the longest books I've ever read. I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Quintessential tale of revenge right there. I mean, revenge books today still just rip that book off. I mean, it's amazing and how old it is and how amazing it is.
Yes.
But then there's other ones like of Mice and Men. Dan's talking about here. I never read it, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why it
It's
took me till last year to read a Call of the Wild, which was incredible, incredible
yeah.
book.
It's just one of those things where maybe it's just we're so familiar with it that
Mm,
we don't think of it as a book to read. I mean, how many times does a movie come out or a show come out and you go, "That was based off of a book?
yeah.
What? Excuse me?"
Yeah.
And then
Now
you
it's
have
like,
to go
hey,
back, "Oh,
this is based off of a movie I already liked. Wow. Okay.
yeah." Yeah, the one classic that I have put in, like, a permanent timeout at this point is Les Mis.
It's
Les
not an easy
Miserables.
read. It's not an easy read.
I got to one character POV and I just went, "Nope,
Mm.
can't stand him." It was
Guys, I'm
good,
getting a lot of questions
but
about this. We already talked about the first law news. Sorry. You know,
yeah,
check the replay. Yes, we're
excited.
hopeful there. That's it. Very excited that Joe's going to get some recommendation or some recognition there. With
Mhm.
me with classics is I have read some that have been a letdown, and I've
Right.
been like Catcher in the Rye. I don't get it. I don't get why that's so popular. I have no idea. I was like Holden Caulfield is one of the most unlikable characters I've ever read in my life, and I've read some despicable characters, and I don't understand why it's a classic. But I'm like, I'm not going to take away its place in history. I mean, obviously, a lot of people do love it. That's why I
Yeah.
put it in that unpopular opinion video. And I mean, I know people love Old Man the Sea. They love Moby Dick. I'm just like, maybe I just don't like reading about the ocean. I don't know. Maybe it's just not for me. Yeah.
That's fair. You have to know what you like as a reader, and that's the big part of when you start reading, right? A lot of people go, "Oh my god, how can you read so much in a year?" Well, I spent a lot of time figuring out the genres, the authors, the tropes that I like in books. I've DNF'd a lot of books that didn't work for me. It's trial and error.
Mm. Yeah, I think about what I tell my kids, like, why, how'd you become such a big reader? I'm like, well, one, I didn't have the options you have. We didn't have Netflix. But like, we had like two channels, and they were in black and white on a 12-inch television. It wasn't quite as exciting as what you guys get. We didn't have iPads. We didn't have the internet in our pocket at all times. I think that was probably a big deal. But with me, it's like, okay, well, when you guys watch the movie in school now, we read the book. We read To Kill a Mockingbird. We read Where the Red Fern Grows, and it scarred us. And we read The Hobbit and things like that in school. And I think that's where it came from for me.
Mm,
Before I forget, with Les Mis, I just say watch the musical. It's a lot more
yeah.
fun. It's a lot more fun. It really is.
Is the Battle of Waterloo like 300 pages because or like an hour to
That might
match
be it,
the book?
Philip. You might be have to be something you have to read when you're younger, I think, and maybe you still have that,
Mm.
rebellious know-it-all, and you just feel like that. But Holden, such a terrible person, terrible, terrible person. Hi, Mads. How are you?
Hello.
Yeah. How old does a book have to be? That's a great question. How old does a book have to be considered a classic? On my channel, I made the rule of 50. So that means in 5 years, 6 years, I'll be a classic. Yeah.
Okay.
But what I kind of did for a while there was like anything Dune and before. That's 1965. But just because I wanted to count Dune as a classic. And now I'm just like, let's do like 50-ish years. I don't know. I don't know what dictates being a classic. Because what would you say dictates being a classic? Is it just years or prestige?
I go off of Goodreads in terms of classics. My mentality has always been they are more classic literature from the 1800s, early 1900s. And that's more from what I was taught in school. That's what classics are because fantasy, sci-fi, those cannot be classics, right? Um, so yeah, that's probably my mentality. But if it's classified as a classic, if you want to say it's a classic, by all means.
I mean, at this point, I just feel like I should say, if it was before I was born, I was like, well, yeah, see, Philip thinks he could be a classic.
There you
You,
go.
you, you've aged like a fine wine, Philip. Shut up. You're even ranking your own thumbnails now. Okay. All right. I've had people recommend that, say, why don't you go back and like rank your reading intros? Like, what I would do is to go back and do like my 10 worst videos or something. Because I feel like everybody now they get all their equipment really great. They get their sound perfect and all that stuff before they start a channel. I was flying by the seat of my pants because I had podcasting equipment when I started because I was just
Mm.
podcasting. I wasn't doing the video thing. And yeah, I had 10,000 subs before I even got a nice camera, So I don't know. I
That's
usually like to
fair.
over prepare for everything, even though, like I said, I'm in year 5 and I'm still struggling with light issues. Anytime I change anything, that's why I'm
Just
not this tired. I'm not as tired as my camera makes me look right now. I mean, I'm tired, but I'm not that tired.
gotta keep up with the times, just upgrade.
I guess so. I guess I
I
problem is
mean
I don't have a nice recording space. This is just,
mm,
the extra bedroom that I turned into my office because I was, going to school full time and just was treating it like a job, as you probably should if you're going back to school at that age. And then I don't have the space because of this big giant desk to move the lights where they need to be. They can't because it's against the wall. I can't put them on both sides of me.
right.
So it's a struggle. I'll figure it out eventually. So much trial and error, like you said, with this stuff.
It is. I mean, I in terms of lighting, I spent, I think, 2 weeks just researching and trying to place and then figure out how the rules are supposed to apply to the space that I had, and I went ham on it. More so than anyone should because I'm not 100% sure on how my sanity was for that 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
in terms of your setup though and your space, you no one really has to go out all out with quality.
Mm,
I really don't
mm.
think that's the case. If you want that quality, by all means, you can invest in it if that's what you want, if that's the result that you want at the end, but I know so many fantastic people who record on their phones, who just
Right. No, I
use
was
their
thinking that, like,
headphones.
I struggle with all this stuff, and then someone like Brian Lee Durfee puts his iPhone
Yes.
on a broken lamp, and his lighting looks fine. I was like, "What the f" So it's wild. It's always an adventure. I always say, "Hey, well, at least I got the sound stuff figured out. I had that figured out before I started, so that's nice."
Well, that's good, yeah. I honestly, my other half, he is very techy and he helped me with a lot of this
Oh,
as
that's
well because
nice.
I had no idea about mic or sound quality, camera, nothing.
That's right.
So
Yeah, that's
I
enough.
yeah. If you know someone, drag them in and ask for help.
Oh, I have people all the time like messaging me saying you need to do this and that. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. You want to fly out here and do it for me? I will open my door and I will buy you lunch. But I was like, no, yeah. To me, I'm here. I'm here. Sound is more
And
important. My voice is what got people to my channel, not my face. I'm realistic here. It was my voice, and I feel like if I'm at least they can hear me great, because I know a lot of people do listen on headphones. They
mhm,
minimize. They usually listen to it as a podcast. That's why I did start a
yeah.
podcasted version, then I forgot to ever start uploading them over there. But yeah, I feel like that's more important for me at least.
Well, and that's just it, right? If we're doing comparisons to our early videos, mine are also they're horrible. I was sitting on a floor in the closet with a dinky little camera and a mic that just picked up every feedback and noise possible. So, yeah, now I have an office chair. That is my big upgrade from the floor.
I think when I first started, I was doing a webcam, so it looked like it was recorded on like a 2001 Nokia phone, and like the audio wasn't matching my.
That's
Oh,
the
it was so bad.
renaissance right there.
It was so bad. Yeah. But then you got someone like
Oh, no.
Theo who starts his channel from day one. The lighting is perfect. And I'm just like, screw you, Theo, and your nice beard. God,
Can not just the lighting, can the editing.
I
Did
know.
he just go in that with full editing skills? How?
It's not fair. It's not
Yeah.
fair. Some guys have all the luck. They have all the luck. Yeah. We both have incredible sound quality, but we have great natural voices too. In fact, AR,
Thank
he
you.
never told me he could listen to my voice for 6 to 12 hours. He said he could listen to your voice for 6 to 12 hours.
Yeah, thank you. I
So,
I think one of the biggest things I've gotten a comment on with my channel is that, "Oh, your voice is like ASMR. It's so soothing and calming to listen to." And the hilarious thing for me is that I actually don't like ASMR videos. I
mm.
can't stand them. They're
I've
like
never watched one. I had to Google what
yeah,
that was when I first started, and people said that to me. I was like, I don't know what that is. Is that good or bad?
right? It's apparently good,
Mm.
but for me listening, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Can't do it. I've actually had people request, "Hey, you should do ASMR videos with the books, like tapping on the books and stuff," and I can't make content I would cringe
Yeah, right.
making and editing.
Kellen, that's my dream job. They want to come out here and set up a studio for me, man. And I would love it. I would love it. I would even read like smut books or something to pay my dues first. I would do that. I would absolutely do that. I got my kid so spoiled now on the way that I read audibly that he demands I have like different voices for each character and stuff, which is fine. The thing was, is like then we moved on to the next series. Like, no, you used those voices in the last series. I'm like, I'm not Robin Williams. I'm not the man of 3,000 voices here. I've got about a dozen. I got to recycle them if we switch to a new series. He's like, no, that sounds just like you're Voldemort. That's not right. Weird.
I mean, you're not a fully trained voice actor?
I'm not. I'm not. So it's like,
Shocking.
yeah, sure. I have a good dozen or so quality voices, I think, but I'm like, I don't know if I was reading like this Cahill book I'm reading right now, where he's got like 3,000 characters. No, I'd be screwed. I'd be screwed for sure. So I say, yeah, I'd love to work for Audible and read some audiobooks, but it'd have to be smaller level books. I don't know if I could do epic fantasy because I don't have that many voices. I'm not Tim Gerard Reynolds who can just speak like what's his name, Scrooge McDuck, and make millions doing it. But
Right. Or
I just
Andy
tease, I
Serkis?
just tease that because he's actually Scrooge McDuck's Scottish, isn't he? Not Irish. Anyway, I derailed. Are you an audio person? Are you an audio listener? Or are you eyes only?
No, I'm all format.
Hmm.
I actually prefer immersion reading, so audiobook and ebook or physical. I don't know, to me, it's that why wouldn't you want the prime experience from your
Sure.
books,
Sure.
right? If you can do audiobook and sit down and read it at the same time, you've got a full cast of voices, you've got a full performance along with reading it, and then when you have to get up and do dishes, you can still keep one in.
Right. I wish I could. It's like one of those things that's just people think that if you say you have listening ADD, then they're like, well, then how do you read so much? I'm like, well, because it's not listening. I'm using my eyeballs. And believe it or not, you can have ADD in one thing and not the other. I think with my problem is just I got so much about just blocking out kids and stuff. Or I think I listen to a lot of podcasts and sports radio and stuff where you can just kind of zone out, get lost in your thoughts.
Mm,
No big deal. With me, with a book, I feel like my mind will wander and I'll be like, I just missed something really important, and I'll be like, hey, how'd this person get there? I'm like, oh, it was in this page right here. Are you stupid? It's just like, no, I can't. I wish I could, because it would be really great for like in the car, doing dishes, doing chores and things like that. That'd be really great, I think. But I probably get a lot more done, a lot more reading done. But
So here's my question then for you. Do you find the listening speed helps or makes it worse?
not about that at all. I just
No?
I
Okay.
don't have anything that I'm doing with my eyes. So I'll just start thinking
Right.
about stuff. Oh, I need to do this tonight. I need to make sure this done. Oh crap, I didn't do that. I've still got to do this.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I just missed like the 7 different names and the 3 different lands they mentioned. So
Not
it's not
there.
about the speed at all. I know people are like, oh, just
Okay.
put it down at like, zero point 0.5 speed. And I'm like, no.
No, I feel like that would make it worse.
Yeah, I don't know.
But, oh, I was just curious if you
I've
tried that,
tried.
if it made a
I've tried.
difference. Yeah.
Some people have said, hey, if you ever want to do like a reread of something of a book you already know, maybe try that. And I was like,
Right.
I've lived this long without it. I think it's just I'm set in my ways at this point. Feel like you
I
can do
mean, that's
same
not
with
a bad thing. If you like reading a certain way, if it works
yeah.
for you, you get the most enjoyment out of it. That's what matters.
Yeah, just months like this one where I've like decided to read like 3 monstrous length books. I feel like maybe I could actually like, have a little bit of an assist here and there when I, got other things I have to do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm eyeballing your shelf, and I want to talk about some of these books you got back there.
Sure, I
First,
may or may not be able to assist.
have you finished Malazan?
I am at book 5.
Okay.
So we're attempting to do the Malazan read along with, Bryce, Shelf Centered,
Yeah.
or yeah, and, we finished House of Chains. We're moving on to book 5, but because of the chaos that happened in the last month, I kinda took a little pause because
Sure.
Malazan is depressing as
Yeah.
anything else. So if you are emotionally going through anything in your personal life, I do not recommend
Yeah.
reading the
Yeah, it's
series.
definitely one of those series that I feel like you need to be in a good place for sure. Because I
Yeah,
remember I
but
was actually, let's just say when I first started with the company I'm with now, I'm very happy now. When I first started, I was not happy because I felt like, why did I go through school to do what I'm doing right now? I was not happy at first. And we were
yeah.
reading Dead House Gates at that time, which is one of the
Oh my
most
god.
depressing books ever. I was like, this is not helping my mood at all. At all.
Yep.
But yeah, I took a break after book 7, and it's been over a year now. But I am starting back with book 8 here in August. I got on the schedule now,
Okay.
so it's a series I definitely. I don't know if you guys are doing the suicidal thing of like 1 book per month. That's insane. That's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
That's insane. But I'm just
So
saying, don't be scared to say I need a break. I need one.
so that's kind of what we've done. So we technically started this back in December, and we started with, let's try one a month just to try and have a deadline where we check in at the very least and say, how's everyone doing?
Mm,
We had a few drop out, unfortunately, and I mean that's how that goes. Malazan is a very dense series. I always say the sales pitch for that is, do you want to read a very dark, depressing, and emotionally invested, extremely complicated series that's over 20,000 pages long that you will have to read twice in order to understand? Like that's the sales pitch for this. But yeah, we're trying one a month, or at least one every 1.5 months. And we're just checking in. If we're not there, if we're not done reading, we just kind of go with the flow. So I think we've probably annoyed some people where they are trying to stay on schedule and, why aren't you moving along? But these are also the people who've already read the series and are, a reread for them.
right.
So
We had a lot of that. We had a lot of that when I
yeah.
I started mine. And here's the thing: is like when I originally said it to avoid burnout, I started. Okay, we're doing 10 books over the course of 2 years because we were
Right.
going to split it up enough, and people were saying that was too slow, so I sped it up. And that's where I burned myself out. That's where everyone else dropped out. It was just like, I mean, at the end when I stopped, like there was like literally 3 people left. When I first started, it was hundreds of people were starting when I started it.
Yeah.
And by the time I dropped out, there was 3 of these people that were talking on the Discord and stuff or on Twitter, talking to me about it. There was 3 people left. And I was like, guys, I can't after Reapers go. I have to have a break. And they're like, man, we get it. It's like we're just at this point, we're just like, we got to just plow through it and finish it, or we'll never finish it. That's I gotta have a break. So they said they didn't mind, but it's just like I am amazed at these people who will read that whole series in under a year. I don't even know how you do it.
Yeah.
It's incredible to me. So if you guys can keep up that pace, man, you guys are rock stars. Yeah.
Well, and now so Bryce has read the series, right? So he's been fantastic. He's been our cheerleader. He's also been the one saying, "Don't push it." Right? If you're finding this one hard, take some time. All good. We'll get there. So I
Mm,
think that's been a huge help. Plus the fact that because Bryce is very passionate about this series, the
right.
live shows discussions are just phenomenal. He goes on into all these details. He's like, "Did you notice this? What about this? Did you notice it?" And meanwhile, I know for myself, I'm sitting there going, was that before this or after that? Or who are we talking about again?"
I had a lot of that. I talked to Philip and AP Ganneman, who was, his alpha
Mhm.
reader. And I'm like, I didn't catch 2/3 of the stuff you guys are telling me right now. So you say it is
Yeah.
a series you have to read twice to understand. As I told everybody, I joked that I'm doing my first Malazan reread on the first read because I felt like I was wait, I got to go back 2 pages and reread that,
Yeah.
because I don't know what just happened. But I think it's one of those things where it's tough because I'm not that type of reader where people are like,
Mm.
oh, it's okay, nobody understands the first time. You're not gonna understand. Just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I'm just not I'm not programmed that way. I have to take my time. I have to make sure I understand everything that's going on. And that's not a series you can do that with, I don't think.
Yeah, I think because we had a conversation before starting the series of just go with it, I did try that, and I think it helped more in the sense of not frustrating me,
Mm, mm,
right? I tried to just not focus on the bigger picture, I just went along with the journey, and I think because I did do this with, I think it was Memories of Ice. I tried to focus on all those details and try and understand the big picture. I had a horrible time with Memories of Ice because I was so focused on trying to get that great
right.
story, great setup, great world building, yeah, all of it. I was just so frustrated by the end of it.
I was I'll come back to that in a second. Steve, I just want to say real fast about the Demon Wars.
Yeah,
When I talked to R.A. Salvatore, he really did sell me hard on it. And he said there's going to be new editions coming out that he's going to send me. So
oh, nice.
I'll be reading them then. But I want to get further interest first before I start another series by Mr. Salvatore. So you're about to start Midnight Tides. I tell you, this is one of my boiling points with it because it's like,
Okay.
hey, book 1 and 3, okay, I knew most of these characters. Book 2 and 4, okay, I see what he's doing. He's held by 5. Book 5 starts, completely new characters again. I was so freaking livid. I was flipping tables. I was like, I can't believe he is doing this. So
Mm.
it's you gotta. I went into it with the attitude of I'm just going to treat each book like an anthology book. It's just a new cast, a new. And then he kind of lured me in with book 3 and 4, being like, okay, these are characters I know. And book 4, half of it, I'm like, okay, I'm all about Karsa. This is really, really good. And then it's like, what is people again? But that made Bone Hunters so damn good. Book 6. It's so
Okay.
good because that was the first one where you go through the dramatists and look at all the characters like, I know every one of these characters. This is all it. But then you get to book 7, he fucks with you some more. So
Just pulls the rug out of you, from under you constantly,
it's
right?
it's not a series I tell people it's easy. And I when I tell them I feel like it's work, I was like, I don't mean that as an insult. I'm just saying it's something you have to take seriously. You have to put in the time. You really do, or you're going to be clueless. You really
Yeah.
are. So,
And so I'm curious, you said you've taken a quite a significant break in between your books
yeah.
in the series there, 7 and 8. How do you find that impacts your reading experience when you go back to it?
I'll
Are you
tell you when I
worried?
get there. Because I
Are
did.
you
I took a because everybody. I mean, I got some. I talk about how I get 99% just positive comments. When I made that video saying I'm taking a break on Malazan, might have been about 50-50. Basically was like, bullshit, you're quitting and you're just too scared to say you're quitting. I'm like, man, I'm not scared of Malazan fans. If I'm quitting, I'll tell you I'm quitting. Because I took a 6-month break in Wheel of Time and I got the same
Right.
thing. People tell me you're never going to finish it. And I did. I went back and finished this. I just needed a break.
Yeah.
And with this, I never meant the break to be this long. But what I said was, I'll go back to it when I feel like I want to go back to it. And I do. I feel
Yeah.
like, okay, a lot of people that I know and respect, like Philip and Alan, they say that book 8 is their favorite in the series.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm going to go back. I was like, at the time, I just felt like if I had forced myself to finish it, I was going to hate read it. And I
Yeah.
didn't want to make a journey 10,000 pages long and say, oh, thank God that's over. I just want to get it over with. I wanted to feel like I enjoyed it. So I said, I'll go back to it when I go back to it. It was never a hate thing. It's just it's a lot, guys. It's a lot to process. Now, as far as like going back to it, I did make spoiler videos for all those. I might have to go back and listen to a few of them and remember who everybody is, but it's I'm usually pretty good about that, but we'll see. I still have my notes. I still have my Excel spreadsheet of all the characters. So we'll
Oh,
see.
wow. You went all out. I've been, using the wiki
Mm.
to try and help in
I
sections
was
where
terrified of spoilers, so I never went to it, but I heard it's really good.
it actually is. It's very aware of not spoiling. Um, but so I'm curious then, is that just an attitude you get with Malazan and big series, or is that anything that you read? So if you're reading a lesser known series and you stop at, say, book 5 out of 10, do you get the same kind of reaction from readers, whether they've read it or not?
Probably not. I just think that Malazan fans just are so excited that people are actually reading it because everybody's so
Right.
intimidated by it, and for good reason. That a
Yeah.
lot of, that when people say they're going to read it, they're just like overjoyed about it. Wheel of
Right.
Time fans, at least in my experience, and I'm not trying to make a blanket statement here. I'm just saying with the ones that mostly I've interacted with, they think that there's Wheel of Time and everything else in the world.
Okay.
So if you take a break in Wheel of Time, well, you just don't get it. You just don't get it. They want you to think you should read 15 books like that, pick tomes, 15 of them in a row. So if you say you're taking a break or you didn't like something, then they think that you're a big dummy. So
Right.
and it's just because they love it. They grew up with it. That's what I would consider Tolkien is what they consider Wheel of Time. So that's I get
Right.
it. I get it.
Okay.
But they're one of the more passionate fan bases, but they're very different. Malazan fans, I'll say, were all very, very nice. They all were very,
Mm.
very nice. They understood. They actually kind of were like nostalgic. They're like, I remember when I felt exactly like you did right now, before I read it like my fourth time or something. But they were
Yeah.
all very extremely nice. It was just really just when I said that I was taking a break, everybody just told me to shit or get off the pot. I'm like, no, I'm gonna read the way I want to read. I'll tell you, but we will see. They might be laughing last when I go back to it. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But this time I might actually be like, you know what? Doesn't matter. Let's just go with the flow and see what happens. Because you don't get through 7 books like that and stop.
Yeah. Well, you're so invested at that point, and, I think Derry makes a good point there as
I
well.
did take a break. 2 months. 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dense series. I'll be honest, I've actually had the physical copies of Malazan on my shelves for almost 10 years before I started into it because I had no clue. I had no one who read the series, no one who could have my back and help me through it or read it with me. And then, all these lovely folks online were like, "Hey, do you want to try?" 10 years later, they sat on my shelf.
Yeah, I had it for a long time, and it was just like I felt like that was definitely a journey it's better to take with a group. Then it's just
Mhm.
because I feel like you need people to keep each other honest, or else it's like going to the gym. It's better if you have a friend because they'll keep you from quitting. That's definitely how I feel like it is with Malazans. You need a support group there because people are going to get down. They're going to feel like quitting. I just say, guys, don't be afraid to take breaks.
Yeah.
That's it. Take notes. I don't think there's any shame in taking notes. Some people are like, oh, are you really enjoying it if you're taking notes? I'm like,
Well,
I work in finance. I take notes on everything, man. I take notes to go to the grocery store. So
there you go. I think if it helps your reading experience in the end, by all means, right? Taking notes, highlighting things. If you just want to read through and then not do anything, by all means. What works for you? Everyone reads differently.
right. Right. Well, I hope you guys finish, but if you guys really do blow through this in 10 months, I'll tip my hat. That's amazing that you guys are.
I definitely don't think we will, but yes.
The best I'll tell you is like you look at the second half of the books and like Guardians of the Moon fits in 3 times what the last book is, I think. And it's just like,
Yeah.
wow, how these are so big. Like seriously, like the mass markets I got are like unreadable. They're just too big. And the font's like 4 point. It's terrible.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
terrible. So yeah. I also
Yeah.
see Lycanius back there. Have you finished Lycanius?
Licanius. No, so actually I got that as the, Broken Binding subscription.
Okay.
So I actually haven't read it yet. I was hoping to read it when I got here, and yes, I read my special editions because why
Sure.
not? You know?
I mean,
But
I think the only special edition I had to read out of is I get that Folio Society of Dune, and I'm like, nah, it's just going to be my nice little pretty copy because I have
right.
7 copies of Dune. I'll read out of one of the other ones, but like Warbreaker, I got the leather bound of that. I read out of that.
Yeah.
They're like, "Aren't you
Y
afraid of hurting it?" I'm like, "No, don't leave it around your kids. It should be fine, right? Don't you guys
yeah,
not take care of your books? I mean, you guys like eating like chocolate sundaes while you're reading? What are you doing?"
just
You
throw
know?
it on the floor when you're done, like,
Gosh, I don't know. I get that a
um,
lot. Why do all your books look so pristine? I think that's their way of saying like they don't believe I'm actually reading them. Like because I am terrified of cracking a spine. I don't like to crack spine.
yes.
Oh
Do you do the book massage thing?
no, no, but
No?
it's if I'm reading a I like obviously hardcover's my favorite, but I
Mhm.
think I really started to fall in love, and Madison actually kind of actually got me over to this. Trade paperbacks because you can open them all the
Mm,
way and the spine don't crack, and you can lay them flat on the desk. Because I do a lot
yeah,
of reading right here at my desk because it's the best lighting in here. But mass market, I just pretty much just don't do anymore. All those Star Wars books behind me, or all the Star Wars books I was reading in high school and stuff, and they're all just beat to hell because it's hard
yeah,
to read a mass market and not crack the spine. It's not, but
yep.
it's just an aesthetic thing that it's like I look back to how I treated my CDs when I was younger, and they're all scratched to hell and back. And now I'm like mad if like the kids put another one video game in the wrong case. I'm like, put it back where it belongs, you know?
Yeah, you can't have chaos in that. It needs to be orderly, it needs to look good.
So yeah. All right. So what else
Yeah.
we got back here? I see First Law. Is that all Broken Binding editions?
Yes.
God, I'd love to have
Yeah.
gotten those. Do you have to have the subscription to get some of these books? You can't just buy them outright.
No, not I think the only way you could is if they have overflow, and I don't think they ever do that.
That's just rough for me
So
because I'm like, what about those months when it's a series you don't care to have? You know, somebody paying outrageous shipping for books I don't even really crazy about. I don't know.
so the for me, this was a trial run. I've never done book subscriptions. I'd never bought in special editions before, so I wanted to see how it would go. And I made sure it was within my budget. And so far, I had there was a couple hiccups. The like Hannah's trilogy, I ended up having two out of the trilogy that were printing issues. So I had to get those reprinted and resent out. But other than that, I mean, they look beautiful and they're getting more and more detailed the more that they do. So
They're good people over there. I just tell them I wish you guys had a United States branch because like
one day,
I I cannot pay more for shipping than I do for the book. I just can't do it. It's in good conscience. Like I understand. I'm not telling you guys you should
yeah,
charge less. I know shipping's expensive. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm saying I wish you guys like Folio Society. Oh my God, these are the most beautiful books. It's over
yeah,
$100 to ship some of them to the States. I'm like, I can't do that. So
yeah.
it's rough. But they actually did message me today that they're going to send me one of those a Blood and Fire editions of
Ooh,
Ryan Kyle's book that Ryan requested that I get one. So I'm just like overjoyed.
that's awesome.
That might be the most sexy looking book I've ever seen in my life. And Broken
Yeah.
Binding just does amazing work. It really would. But I also do wish they would just let us buy them if we want to buy them because I would have loved to have gotten those First Law editions. Love
But
to.
that's all part of it, right? Is the exclusivity.
Yeah,
I
I
know,
get it. I get it.
yeah.
I get it.
th-
Yeah.
They did open up their subscription tier too, at the very least.
No, yeah,
They
no, it's cool. You can be
separated
part
it,
of that
but
1% society. That's cool. You
yeah,
know,
I'll sit over here with my
got to put your monocle on and oh man. So yeah,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so I mean, they're beautiful books, and actually the next one up would be the Adrian Tchaikovsky from Goldsboro books. Have you seen the spine on that?
I've seen the painted edges.
Yeah, sorry, the painted edges.
Yeah, yeah, they're
Yeah,
beautiful. They're beautiful. And that's the
yeah,
thing is, I did what Zach Argyle's his Threadlight. I did his
yes.
Kickstarter, and he did a thing where like a lot of people were requesting a slip sleeve. I'm like, dude, you've got those beautiful painted edges on the book now. Why do we want a slip sleeve?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm already like,
because
do I turn it? Do I turn it? Do you turn painted edges backwards on your shelf? I mean, it makes
some
sense,
of
right?
them.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yep.
I don't know. I've never had real. I mean, I've had painted edges where it's just like solid color, you know, and I've
Yeah.
turned those one way, but where it has like a design on it. I've never actually owned one of those before. So
Yeah, this was my first kind of dip into it, and I won't lie, I was very, very happy when the
right,
first one arrived, and I was like, "You could do that?
yeah.
No way!" Because
Okay,
it
so it
seems
seems
like
like
it would be fantasy.
some of them you can get without a subscription. Huh.
Oh.
Like apparently you didn't need it.
Oh, so yeah, they do some outside of the subscription, but they're also specific books, and I think you can only order them for a certain period of time. Is that what you guys are talking about?
I know. I think you could buy the a Blood and Fire. You could buy that
Mhm.
outright. I think so. I don't know. This is weird.
Yeah, 'cause I didn't get that one.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Hey, you know this Chica right here?
I do. Hello,
Yeah,
Joanna.
yeah. No, she's okay. She's a little sus, but yeah, she's okay. She's okay.
Oh yeah.
But you missed it, Joanna. We were talking about Malazan for like 20 minutes. You missed it.
Uh-oh. Redo.
Okay, so they're saying you want the slipcase to keep the dust off the edges. It will be
Okay.
yeah, okay. All right. I think what I prefer to do is just I say I'll support kind of a smaller author, self pub or something like that, like on Kickstarter, like twice a
Yeah.
year. That's why I put my budget over versus doing something like a subscription service, just because I feel like they need the help. Like I got a lot of pushback when I said I wasn't going to support Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter because I was
Oh,
like,
really?
he's going to be fine, guys. I mean, what he did like the most successful Kickstarter of all time. Yeah, he did fine. I was like, I'm going
Yep.
to throw my money at a smaller creator. So I donated to what Sword of Kaigen, the because I never read
Yes.
it, and I like to support those smaller ones that might not actually meet their budget. And of course, Zach's Threadlight one because I wanted to read Threadlight, I didn't have it yet, so it seemed like a
Yeah.
perfect time. So I prefer, I think, to do it that way. You're getting so many
Definitely.
beautiful editions now through Kickstarter, and I think it's just great. It's really really great.
Yeah. It's nice to see that authors are like even self-published authors are taking that chance, right? Because Kickstarter, if you're publishing, there's so much to be aware of. There's a lot of business stuff you have to learn. And then on top of that, you have to learn how to run a Kickstarter,
Mm.
get all of the shipment stuff in, and then ship it back out. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I don't know, I would feel intimidated by Kickstarter if I was trying to put something out on
Oh, I
there.
wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it at all.
Yeah.
Like, someone told me, like, one time there was a convention that people wanted me to go to, and I was like, it's just not my budget right now. Or you should just put together a Kickstarter for it. I was like, I would feel terrible asking people for others to pay for me to go to a convention,
Right?
and then like they're like, it's for your channel. It makes sense. I was like, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I feel awful. I feel awful about it. I don't know.
I get that. I think it was about a year and a bit before I finally put my Amazon wish list on my videos.
I was at 25,000 subs before I made a Patreon. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I talked to someone, they were like, "Dude, why do you not have a Patreon?" I was like, "You surprised how much people just wanna help you out," you know? And, I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it's all extra time, right? Like I'm at that point where I don't want to do a Patreon, I don't want to do Ko-fi or whatever all those things are for the same reasons. I feel weird taking other people's money when I want to do this as a hobby and
right.
because I enjoy doing it, but
Mm,
also that's more things to manage and time I don't have.
sure, sure. And Joanne, I'm the same way, except I always wanna call it the Blood and Bone, the John Gwynn series. I actually called it that in one of the videos, and I just edited it out because I felt so embarrassed. But, yeah, that's a kick-ass series if you haven't read it yet. I've got, like, 50 pages left on book 2. That's really damn good.
Okay.
Not that you need more to read, but, and plus Ryan's a really awesome guy. He's so damn nice.
So, in terms of Ryan Cahill's, I've read The Fall, which is the
Yeah,
novella.
yeah.
Um, and then that's been a long time ago, so I'd need to reread it again. But it's just one of those things where every time I see him release a book, I go, "Okay, that's that's a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
How many more words is that?" And,
So the
like,
first
are
book
you
was
going
about 500 pages. The one I'm on now is
Yeah.
800, and then the one coming up, but book 3 is like 1,500 pages. I'm like, "Dude, why
Right?
did you split this into 2 books?" He's like, "Well, it's just yeah, I didn't feel like I needed to cut anything out." I was like,
It
"Oh
works for
my
the
god."
arc, you
So I
know?
was like, eventually you're gonna be releasing like 3,000 page books. Are you serious right now? So this is gonna be a Kindle only edition, you know?
Yeah. Gonna need to if you do end up getting a print copy, you're gonna need all the support with the pillows underneath. Put it on a desk.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, it's a series I do wanna get to, but I know it's kinda like Malazan. You can only take one big series at a time,
Absolutely. People tell me
right?
all the time. I mean, I talked to Pierce Brown last week,
Yep.
and he was like, "You got to read Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe." And I said, I will do it, but not until I finish Malazan because it's like it's one of the most dense series ever. I'm like, I'm not starting
Yeah.
anything that dense again until, and I said, I'm not starting another long fantasy series until I finish Realm of the Elderlings, which I'm currently scheduled to do in December.
Okay.
As long as Philip doesn't flake out on me. He's still here,
Right.
Philip? Yeah, I don't know.
Derry will be here reffing you. No worries.
To be fair, Jerry's been real supportive of take breaks, take breaks, take
Yeah.
breaks. Like she
Oh,
wanted
that's
me to take a
awesome.
break after Tawny Man, because I think that a lot of people think that's why Rain Wilds has such a negative connotation to it, because people they love Tawny Man so much, and Rain Wilds doesn't really compare. and so people just kind of
Mm.
unnecessarily shit on it a little bit, I think. But I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I took a break to read Philip's book, and he was on his book tour, so I said, "Hey, let's take a break." And
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? I've talked about this before on my own channel too, where I have always been terrible at finishing series. I I just have this mentality, and I more so used to. I'm trying to get out of that where you read book 1 and you're like, "Wow, that was a fantastic story. There's nothing else that could possibly happen in this world or to these characters." Right? Unless it's a massive cliffhanger. And I just got in that habit over the years, especially when I was younger, because I would read a book and go, "Oh, this is the only one that exists." Like you, I didn't have a computer I could just or a phone I could whip out and say, "Oh, is there more in this series?" It
yeah.
was just that's what's on the shelf. That's the only one that exists. And so now I'm trying to actively finish series knowing that that's a bad habit I have.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I could probably make a video just about like series that I'm currently in that I have not finished and I haven't officially thrown in the towel on. Because I did a video a while
Yeah.
back of series I'm not going to finish. I'm just going to go ahead and call it. I'm not going to finish them. But I've got so many that are still just kind of like ongoing that I say, yeah, I'd like to finish that. Like Witcher, I haven't
Yeah.
quit it. I'm not itching to finish it, but I haven't quit it. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, so long as you're comfortable doing that, that's what matters. For me, I noticed I was having a bad habit of just not finishing them for no reason aside from, "Oh, cool. That was fun. Let's move on to the next thing." And then it just racks up, right? And you go,
Yeah.
"One day I'll get to it." And we can't have you just gotta, I don't know, get some kind of closure at some point.
It helps, but I think I made the mistake of when a channel was first getting off the ground, and I realized, oh, it's not just Wheel of Time. People like hearing me talk about books. Because at first I
Yeah.
thought, oh, it's just because Wheel of Time's so popular. So I talked about First Law, and so there was a lot of people that were interested in hearing me talk about that. And I said, I'm going to get some more content. I'm going to start 5 series at once. And so I started 5 book ones: Witcher, Demon Cycle,
Wow.
Lightbringer, Red Rising, one more, Prince of Thorns. It's the Broken Empire. I'm gonna start 5 of these at one time, and
You
right
went
then I was
all
like,
in.
there's still several, a handful of those I've never finished. So I said never again, never again. So that's why I kind of started doing this
Fair.
thing that I've started doing the last couple of years of, if it's a trilogy, I'm going to try to read it in a month and just kind of
Oh,
knock out
okay.
trilogies at a time instead of this. I'm going to start book 1 of this one and then book 2. We're going to do book
Yeah.
1s in this month and book 2s. Yeah, it doesn't work. It rarely
I'm
works.
I'm noticing that. I'm trying to figure out how to time the series that I'm reading, and I feel like I have to just read them back to back. Otherwise, by the time I do end up finishing it, a trilogy will take me 2 years. There's just so much out there.
Is that Paternus on your shelf?
It is, yes.
Have you read that one?
So that is one that I am hoping to read in the next couple
Yeah.
months. It's been really, one of those books where it's just sitting on your shelf and it's calling to you.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's it. So I have the audiobook for it too for the entire trilogy, but I've only got the physical of one.
Yeah, I'm real big about scheduling. Like I said, I work in finance, and we'll do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have those books every once in a while. I'm just like, no, screw it. I want to read this, and
Yep.
I'll do it. It does happen about, I'd say, about at least twice a year. But Dirk's such a nice guy on social media, and so I bought the first 2 books. Book 3 is still quite expensive, even for a used copy. So I'm trying to find a matching copy for that. But I don't know. I was reading Percy Jackson to my oldest son, and
Oh,
someone
nice.
really recommended, said, if you'd like Paternus, it's basically Percy Jackson for adults. And I was like, okay, good enough sales pitch for me. So
Yeah,
sure, why not?
that's awesome.
So social media can be dangerous too, because the authors that talk to you, I feel like that's like a cheat code. That makes me want to read your stuff. It does.
Yep.
And they're really cheap. They come down from upon high and mingle with us commoners. It makes me want to read their stuff.
That's right.
That's why Ryan's stuff is kind of cut to the front of the line. It's like, this guy's so nice. This isn't fair. John Gwen, I hadn't planned to read his stuff, and he was so nice on social media. And of course, his boys are just awesome. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, I just can only dream of my 2 boys being as close as those 2. Because right
Yeah.
now they just want to kill each other. I just can't imagine them ever being that close.
I mean, maybe it's a stage or a phase.
Yeah, I hope. I hope. So what are you reading next? Do you know that? Do you know that far in
Next.
advance?
So Yes and no. I do have commitment reads, but then I also try and mood read them. So let me find them here.
There's mine. That's why I
Next.
wanted to kind of lead in with talking about have you read James Islington? So
Oh no, I haven't, but I've been seeing that around. With I've seen you post about it, so
I
I'm
haven't
really
heard
curious.
anybody give it a negative review yet. It's like 100%. This book is
Really?
awesome. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
That is very exciting. Yeah, I'm probably going to be reading this one next, Seeds of War by Jawa F.
I've seen him on
Silva.
Twitter, but I haven't seen his books before. Okay.
Yeah, this I think is his debut. So
Okay.
this is his first book. But I mean, it's got all the tropes I love from, the mother and war veteran getting back into the business, so to speak, and the thief, thinks he's God. And
Okay.
then the feared mercenary, best days behind him, but he's got one last job to do, and then the magic system is based on smoke.
Ah, okay.
So, all sounds right up my alley. But yeah, I'm really excited to dive into that one too. I'm not going to be able to reorganize it. They're
All right,
going in a pile.
I got a loaded question for you. How about this one? How about a series that you read like the first book and you thought it was incredible,
Mm.
and the series just got worse as you went along, and you eventually just said, "Screw it." You have
Oh,
anything like
jeez.
that? Lightbringer, Brent Weeks, most amazing magic system that I've ever seen, and the first couple books were so good. And
Yeah.
it's like The Walking Dead. I've never seen anything fall off quite as fast as that did for me. That's mine. You have a series like that?
That I always look at my shelves because
Yeah.
my memory is terrible.
Whenever I'm playing anything, I'm just like I'm just like looking at myself. What can I do? Yeah.
Yeah, what one am I looking for?
Mm.
So this one, I read the first one of this series and I have it's gritty, it's dark, Vikings, fantastic. The second one I started and I just could not get into it. Um
Is that one
yeah.
historical fiction too?
Yes, yeah.
Because I read
Yeah, a bit
his
of fantasy in
Lancelot. I
there.
read Lancelot by him, and I was like, I'm kind of where Tori fell on it. I felt like,
Yeah.
I think I'm just so hit or miss when it comes to historical fiction. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I think it does have fantasy element to it.
Hmm.
But it's I'd say if you're good with grimdark, like Joanne Abercrombie and some of the
Yeah,
gruesome scenes that you get in there, this is probably similar to it, but with more of a Viking setting.
I'm a little bit same, same. No, that's Peter V. Brett. Peter V. Brett is a demon cycle. Man, talk about falling off a cliff. Jeez. That
So
might
I
be one of the best first books ever to have no other good books in the series. It's amazing how that happens.
I do feel a little bit bad because I've had both Brent Weeks and Peter V. Brett's books on my shelf for a long time. I got used copies a long time ago and I just never picked them up to read. They sounded interesting when I was shopping and I got home and they just, never got read.
My thing with Brent Weeks is just like, like let me put it like in a musical term. Like you remember like in I don't know, the 90s when Metallica changed their style and people were just frustrated about it. It's kind of how I felt. It's like I know that you're like you're a great writer and it's just like you're doing stuff that you have so much more talent in this. Why are you doing this? Why are you
Yeah.
trying to be M. Night Shyamalan with ooh, gotcha? Why are you trying to do this? Your books are good enough as they are. So it's just
Yeah.
frustrating to me because I feel like you got so much talent, man. I don't know. Well,
That's
Peter
fair.
Brett though, I don't know. I don't even, I talk mostly positive. I don't really try to trash this much stuff. It's just like when it's a series that has such a great concept and I just love everything about it, and then it just falls off a cliff. It's that frustrates me like crazy.
Oh, I mean, that's fair, you see the potential and it's not there.
Mm. Yeah, I've listened to the new Metallica album. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I never thought when I was in high school that Metallica would still be putting out albums when I was, kids my age I was when when I first discovered Metallica. I didn't think that would ever happen. That might be it, Joanne. I brought that up as I think that I started with Bernard Cornwell and Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth when it came to historical fiction, and that's two of my favorite historical fiction things ever. And it would be hard for me to not compare everything to those. So yeah.
Well, and that's it too. The more you read, you find these incredible books, and then everything you read after that, you're comparing it,
Mm.
right? It's once you get that top tier book experience from a genre or author, it's hard to recapture that feeling.
Yeah, I think there's some things you can kinda think back on, and you'll be like, "Oh, I'm
Mm.
glad I read that when I did," because I feel like if I read it now, it
Mm.
might not be as impact like, I love Mistborn, but I was like, I don't know if I'd go back to it now if I'd enjoy it as much as I did the first time, and
Mm.
that doesn't mean it isn't good. I just feel like I've changed as a reader since then. I think Brent brought this up the other day, saying he loved when he read The Expanse, but he's read so much more science fiction now that he's like looking back on it, he's saying, "If I read The Expanse now, I don't think I'd like it as much," because, I've read Alistair Reynolds and Peter F. Hamilton and stuff like that. So, yeah, that stuff can
Right.
matter. It can definitely matter.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned The Expanse because I did try that series. I tried the first book. It took me so long to finish the first book, and I just wrote off the series. But I also started it at the beginning of COVID lockdowns.
Ah, well,
So the
when everybody
timing
was
was
at maximum depression, yeah.
yeah. It's bad
It
timing.
it's rough. I was like, for me, the only silver lining of COVID for me was, like, everybody was home. So,
Yeah.
that was what I really 'cause was just first starting my channel. So, I got more eyes on the channel. That's my only silver lining of that time period. Not fun. No, that's right when I graduated.
Mm.
That's right when I graduated, and then you couldn't get a job because nobody was hiring anybody. Yeah, it's good times. Good times. Yeah, that's really bring the discussion down now.
Yes, let's go.
What's those, Ninth Reign, what's that author's name?
That
Jen
is
Lyon? Not Jen Lyons,
Jen Williams.
Jen Williams. I have that
Jen
first one. Those
Williams.
those are stunning covers, and that's one of
Yes.
those where I'm like, "Look, I try not to be cover by guy, but every once in a while, I'm still a cover by guy."
Yep.
I still am, and that's one. That's what made me buy Red Rising was the covers.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the simple designs, right? With the black and
yeah,
the coloration? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, sometimes less is more. I see some of these
true.
really super busy, and that'll lead down to the, whole AI art, conversation that's really, really big right now, which, by the way, guys, watch Battlestar Galactica. AI is a bad idea. Stop it. Anyway, I think sometimes when it comes to fantasy, less is more, and
Mm.
sci-fi. Just less is more. You don't have to have a crazy busy cover to sell me. Sometimes just give me some striking colors and something really, really detailed, a little bit Spartan. Hey, cool, it's a fantasy book and it's got a spear on it that looks awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. I'm simple in that way.
No,
But,
that's
I will
great.
feel like a Michael Whelan art and be like, "Oh my god, that's incredible," so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of in between. So long as it catches my eye and, it's pretty looking, I can display it up. I like it. I think the point where I have troubles with book covers is when they're all going with the same theme. So
Mm.
for a year, it's all like white and black covers, or 6 months, it's all blue and black, and that's the only color schemes they're going with at a single time.
Well, you can get me into my rant about why can't they make matching spines? Why is this so hard for publishers?
Oh, I agree.
They don't respect book collectors at all. And the worst is when the last book in a series has something different on the spine.
So Petrick's video where he talked about Ken Leo's series,
Yeah.
I I felt so bad, but I also kind of felt a little bit relieved because I purposely did not buy physical copies of that series because I was waiting. Like, we're gonna see how the last book looks.
Right. I got anxiety watching that video. I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
That or it's like
No.
one book is like an eighth of an inch taller than the rest of them. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's rough. So when I do have one, like they did finish the Expanse, and Orbit got every single column just matched perfectly. Everything's aligned beautifully. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Then I look at something like Dagger and the Coin, which is like I'll have to send you a picture. It's the most. It's chaos. It's pure
Did
chaos.
did they just, like, mismatch all of them?
Because of they would put the cover, they would try to put that similar version on the spine, and they were
Okay.
weapons. So the one that has like a spear, they decided where they're numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They decided to move the number 4 like up and to the right.
Oh, no.
Yes, it's so bad. It's so bad. Or like my
Oh.
Driss books, where some of them have a number and some of them have a Roman numeral.
Oh. Okay, so do you are they just, like, mixed in together? Or are they just
Apparently,
separated?
there are 2 different publishing houses, and
Oh.
Amazon just doesn't differentiate those. They'll just send you which ones they got.
Well, see, the real villain of this story is
Oh, yeah.
Amazon.
Bezos, you maniacal son of a bitch, man. So,
Yeah, I
well, how
always
far have you gotten in Realm of the Elderlings? You finished it?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, no. So that's in one of those series where I'm like, I'm gonna need to dedicate some time to.
Yeah, yeah.
A while back, I read Assassin's Apprentice, and like I said with series, I was like, cool, nothing else can possibly happen in this series. These characters are untouchable, and we're moving on to the next series. So I never picked it back up, and I've been seeing everyone reading it lately, and FOMO has been hitting hard,
Yeah,
but
I'll do it.
it's yeah, it Malazan is just gonna destroy a big series for a little bit.
Yeah. Malazan is the destroyer of worlds for sure, but
Yeah.
I've noticed that there is always a seems a and maybe it's because a lot of us run in the same circles, is it seems like a lot of people will coalesce around one series and everyone
Yeah.
will start picking up at the same time, or I've been meaning to do that, I'm gonna do that with you and stuff like that. But I've
Yep.
also said, I think one of the most dangerous things as a content creator is don't get wrapped up in all these read-alongs, man, because you
Yeah.
will feel like you're a slave to it after a while. To where I've just said, like, I'm doing this Realm of the Eldlings with Philip, and I'm doing this Expanse with the people on my Discord. I'm done after that. I am 100% Switzerland after this. I am a neutral nation, and I am not joining any more read-alongs. I can't do it. It's just, I don't know.
Well, even with buddy reads, right? Buddy
Yeah.
reads are those things where you can, even if it's just one book or a trilogy, you can read them together as a group. It's not, you wouldn't classify it as a read along, especially if it's only one book. But how many buddy reads do people end up in? Anitha is probably, up to her ears in buddy reads at this point.
There's someone, Jane,
Yes.
one of my moderators, she's like that. She's every
Yeah.
single buddy read. I was like, you never read a buddy read you didn't like, huh? I was like, I don't know how you do it. But yeah, with me, even worse villain is rereads. I've got to stop doing that.
Mm,
I've already said, like, all this great stuff I have to read, never gonna be able to. And like I said, now that I've opened a new door with a lot of self pub that I want to read, like see Chago in here, I'd love to read Chago's books. And I'm like,
yeah.
when are you gonna do this? Christopher Brenning just sent me his new book. I've got 3 of his books. I'd love to read some of these guys. So I was like, besides Stephen King, because that's part of a series where I'm going through his books. I gotta stop. I gotta stop with the rereads. It's just like you're never gonna read everything you want, man. You just stop. It's you gotta just like look at the mirror and be like, you are not gonna do this. You know, you just have to. It's tough.
You get a message saying, "Hey, you want to buddy read this? You want to read along with this?" You just have to have a copy paste response of no.
Jago, is it weird that I read that in like Gollum voice? Read them. That's kind of what you sound like. He cheated. He sent me these really gorgeous like naked hardcovers with beautiful art on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's a cheater. He's a cheater.
Yep.
He's a
They're
cheater.
and they have beautiful color schemes to them. The red and the black on this one, the blue on the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? And I respect him for, look, I'm a fantasy fan. I love dragons. Don't get me wrong. Ryan's books are great for that because I love dragons. I mean, that's one of the things that drew me to this genre, where he's like, I'm going to show some love to some griffins. I admire that. I admire that.
Yeah,
But the problem
absolutely.
is with getting into self pub is these guys and gals write really quick. They write really quick, and I'm like, I love that. As someone I started reading a Game of Thrones in the year 2000. I
How are you
love that
feeling?
they write fast, but I'm just like, now I'm just like, oh, especially when they're writing as fast and books as big as people like Ryan are. It's tough. It's tough. So I think that
Yeah.
getting out of read-alongs and getting out of rereads for sure will help me be able to knock some more stuff like that out. And I've done all my
Mm.
chonkers this year. Did Lonesome Dove. I'm going to be doing. I just said don't do it. One last reread. I did offer to do Gone with the Wind with a group of people, but
Okay.
that's also part of our classics. So after
Yep.
that, it's like that's it, man. That's it. No more of this.
5 months later,
Yeah,
we'll see
I
you
have
in a
this the
reread.
last one. I swear. That's why I said, my weekly updates. I always say the one where I did something, and this one was where I say I'm done with rereads, and after this next one. I feel like I've done that a lot. So
Uh, there's there are a few books that I will put on my reread list, and it's constantly changing, but the one book that I typically come back to is The Hobbit for rereads. I
sure,
absolutely love that
sure.
one.
No, I mean, as someone I've reread Lord of the Rings trilogy 7 times.
Oh my gosh,
I've read
yeah.
I've read Dune 13 times. You know, that's when I was like, is there anything you don't know about it at this point? You think it's going to change, Mike? You know, but that also the last time I did Lord of the Rings was before I started this channel. I didn't have all these. I didn't know half this stuff even existed before I started this channel. You know, the whole reason I started this channel is because I was reading Wheel of Time. You know, and that was like, that's like the only big fantasy series I want to read.
Yeah.
Hilarious, right? Hilarious in hindsight. Yeah.
There
Yeah,
you
you
go.
nailed it, Jared. That's it. You got to put some stuff on there about, that are for you. You definitely got to do that once in a
Mhm.
while.
Well, if you don't, you burn out, right? That's the big thing too, is you're gonna burn out at some point if you keep doing so many commitments, if
Thank you
you're
so much, Andrew.
Uh,
You knew how much I've been just killing myself over this, Andrew. Oh my God. I hate you so much.
we had a whole discussion about
I
this.
love you, but I hate you. I hate you so much. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, that's all right. Priorities, right?
The Andrew hate. I think that's something we can all, co-work. Hey, do you have any books lately, Andrew? Oh, today? What a surprise.
uh, I am the burnout king. There, right there. Andrew's comment.
Have I ever
So
thought about covering my shelves with plastic? No. No, I
no,
just dust regularly.
I have a
That
toddler. They would
yeah.
just plow through the plastic.
That sounds like a lot of work too. And also it probably wouldn't
Mm.
look that good on camera.
Mm.
I don't
The
know.
other thing too for me is it's aesthetic, right? Who for me, some people like smelling their books. I like running my hands across the spines when I'm going to pick a book.
Mm,
And if there's plastic there, then it's a barrier.
yeah, yeah, that wouldn't be any good.
Mm.
Well, is there anything you want to talk about before we say goodnight? Anything left? Any burning questions or statements you'd like to make to the audience?
Uh, Nothing that comes to mind, but yeah, I mean we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Feels good to talk about Malazan with someone who's behind me in the series, and they're all gung ho, thinking, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna because I remember that same energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Here we go. You have any hot takes, unpopular
Ooh.
opinions, anything?
Hmm.
Mine is that Name of the Wind is a mid-level book. Name of the Mid.
I won't read it. I won't read it. Same with Game of Thrones. At this point, not
Hmm,
interested in reading it. At
okay.
this point.
Just because it's not finished, or
Um, it's just never really interested me. A long time ago, I tried to pick it up. I got 3 pages in, went, not for me. And
really?
I
Wow.
just I mean, my reading tastes have changed over the years, but still, it's a series that just everyone's read it. I hear lots of topics about it, and I've listened to some discussions, but it just doesn't interest me to read. Same with Name of the Wind. Those are
Mm.
2 series I just don't really care for right now. Um,
I'm
I don't
glad
know
I'm
if
not
I
alone, Jared. Well, see, now I'm sad I asked because that might be my favorite fantasy series of all
I'm
time.
sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. That's the thing about me is when I started this, I said I want to feel like we can get back to having discussions because it's like it seems
Right.
like so much of the world had become agree with my opinion or like you didn't think the same thing I thought about this Marvel movie. You must die. I'm like, when did we get here?
10 Marvel movies later.
Right, right. So I was like, it's fine. Like Dune, people are always like, "Oh, sorry, Mike. I DNF to." I don't care. That's
Yeah.
great, man. Read what makes you happy. I always want people to read what makes you happy. You know.
So, okay, I do have a question then for you because I've only read the first book of Dune
Mhm.
and I was kind of mid on it.
Okay,
Not enough to it was good, but it wasn't enough to sell me on the series,
sure.
right? And then the movie came along. And I watched the movie with my other half. What I'm going to let you go. What was your opinion on the movie versus the book?
I mean, there's so much stuff that obviously you can't put on the screen because the reason this has been unfilmable for the longest time is most of the book's dialogue is inner monologue. It's mostly characters' thoughts. So that's why it's always been so tough to adapt. I feel like they did a pretty good job what they had, but there are some things still. It's like it was too short. I mean, that was only half of the book because there are several key plot moments with characters they had to leave out that you could tell was for time constraints.
Hmm.
There was definitely big moments they missed. However, it's way more faithful of an adaptation than I ever thought we'd see, and that's because Denny B loves that book so much. That's like his Bible. I mean, this is a guy, it's like as a dream, as someone who wants to see something adapted, the director's walking around with a paperback of the book in his back pocket while he's
Right.
directing the movie. That's what you want to see as a fan, right? So I mean, I loved it. I can't wait to see how he does part two. I'm worried now that the studios involved are going to be like, we've got to make it be more emphasis on the action or something, and that's not a book that's about action. It really isn't. So I'm worried about that a little bit, but
Okay.
I don't know. The first one won like 7 Oscars or something, so I have a feeling that the studios just gonna be like, man, do what you need to do, because I will take
Okay.
the critical acclaim over, maybe making huge, box office for it, because it is a niche thing. This isn't Star Wars. It's never going to attract. It's never going to be $1 billion movie. But I think everyone who sees it's going to be like, wow, it's majestic. It's an experience kind of thing. But
Mhm.
you're not going to get the ADD Nation in there watching Dune movies. They're going to be very, very bored. So as someone who was mid on the book, what do you think about the movie?
So here's the thing. I watched it with my other half, who's not a reader, and we get to the end, and I went, okay, I have some concerns, but otherwise, it was all right. And then I turned to him and I asked him what he thought, and he goes, well, similar to you, he's like majestic, great cinematics, but I have no idea what was going on with the storyline. I'm like, and so I sat there and explained it all, and I realized they didn't really explain anything to people who haven't read it.
Mm. Yeah,
So,
I get it.
yeah, he was like, "It's beautiful," but in the end, I think if they wanted to explain the storyline a little bit clearer for people who have not read it, maybe take out a couple of those sunsets. That was my final thought.
Well, the thing is, look, big Star Wars fan.
Mm,
George was a big Dune fan, and he took a lot of stuff and put in it. So I think the thing with Paul looking at the sunset, leaving his
yeah.
home world at the beginning, was basically him taking it back from Luke Skywalker looking at the binary sunset in the first movie. It felt like that was just some kind of like taking it back. That was a
Okay.
very, very big thing. So, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
There is a lot of lingering on the cinematics, or the cinematography does linger quite a bit. Personally, I love it. I love it,
Yeah.
but I also am like, I wonder, someone who hasn't read it, do they know what's going on
He
right
had
now?
no
Do
clue.
they
He's
give
like,
it? Do they give a damn that Duncan just died? Do they care?
"Nope.
Are they invested at all?
No." He's
Besides
like,
the fact that
"How?"
it's Jason Momoa, do you care?
No.
So,
Didn't care on either. His perspective, essentially was he didn't understand the relationship between the characters aside from
mm,
the father and Paul.
mm.
Um, and it like how the I can't remember his name, big guy floats around the sky. He had no
Baron
idea.
Harkonnen, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "Who was that and why was he a problem?" He just
Yeah,
had no
it's
clue.
one of those where I was like, I hope it gets people interested enough that they're asking enough questions that they'll pick up the book, and then they'll be like,
Right.
"Oh, okay, well, makes more sense now." But yeah, it definitely doesn't hold your hand, and I think there's some parts
No.
where maybe they should have held your hand. I think because outside of like diehard fans of the book, which are huge, huge. I mean, it's biggest sci-fi book ever. I
Yeah.
think that's outside of that, it's probably quite confused. Like my wife hasn't read it, and she's like, if I had to listen to you talk about it for the last 15 years, I'm not sure I would have understood a lot of it. So
Right?
yeah.
And, so actually, I think Tiago had a comment up here, I just wanna touch on quick,
Hmm.
where he says, "I'm amazed you liked my book if you didn't like Game of Thrones." I did not read Game of Thrones, nor
Yeah.
did I watch the TV show. My point was that I just don't have an interest in picking up that series.
Hmm.
I got, like, 3 pages in, Tiago. I'm not saying I was a good judge. I'm just saying it's
Tiago,
a series
do
that's
you rip
just
off George R. R. Martin?
uh-oh,
Shame on you. Shame on
start
you.
an
How dare
investigation.
you? How dare you? Well, I was teasing about this about with Ryan Cahill about how that his book has 3 male friends at the beginning, and so everyone's like, "Oh, it's ripped off Wheel of Time." Like, really? Wheel of Time has the monopoly on 3 friends from a small village. Okay,
Getting that
I guess you
specific now.
guys never read any other fantasy series ever. Yeah, so how
We're
dare
gonna
how,
copyright tropes now?
yeah, basically, oh, you had a dragon in it, so did Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Stupid. Yeah,
Coming of age story? No, can't do that.
yeah, that's it. Well, I've had a great, great time.
Yeah,
I would
likewise.
pretty sure we could probably talk a lot longer, honestly, easily. But some of us do have jobs and stuff in the morning. It sucks. It really does. I
Children
wish
to
I could
wake
just.
up to.
People ask me all the time, "Hey, have you ever think about doing this? as a career, no. No, until someone does actually pay me to read and it's a salary with like benefits and insurance and stuff, sure. Yeah, we'll talk about it then. But no, no one's willing to do that at the moment. So I still have to actually like go in and punch the clock like a good old working man. That's what I went back to school for, but that's what I've got to go do. But I'm glad that we got to do this. I hope you guys will check out some K's channel because, like I said, I feel like there are so few really genuinely positive channels out there. Like I think one thing that drove me to Philip's channel was that Philip's like me in that if he didn't like a book, he's just not going to talk about it. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many people who rely on rant videos and things like that. And I just, if that works for them, it's great. They've got a lot more subscribers than me. They're probably doing something
Yeah.
right. They are doing this for a career for that reason. I'm just not that person. So I like to shine a light on genuinely positive channels. And I feel like yours is definitely one of them. And I appreciate that. And I hope you'll keep doing that because we need more of that.
Absolutely.
We need
Thank
more
you
of
so much. Yeah, the way I look at it is you can go in reading a book and talking about a book in a certain perspective. Even if you didn't like things, you can still talk about the things you liked.
that.
So,
I think so.
yeah, but thank you definitely for having me on for chatting. It was great getting to know you better. I think we've been on random live streams and just been in groups of 5 or 6 people, and
Right. Right. Yeah.
nice to
No.
be able to chat with you one on one.
Of course, anytime you want to do so again, hey, that's just like stop with people see this stuff with the you're 90,000 subs, poor you. It's you know what? Most of them are bots. I'm convinced because otherwise, it's like my biggest video gets 10,000 views. Okay, so it must be all bots. I think at this point. But yes, I'm with Andrew. Love the positive vibe, and of
Thank
course,
you.
if you do this ASMR thing, I'm gonna have to figure out what it is. You know, so I've
If
heard you be really good at it. Be really good. But I've got a branding idea for your channel. I do have
Ooh,
a minor in marketing. I got a branding idea.
okay.
Hayes Hidden Shelf sweaters or Afghans.
Afghans,
There you
we'll
go.
we'll we'll
I mean, I
get
did the
those.
coffee mugs, so I think that they'd be pretty good for you. I'd buy
Okay.
one. I'd buy
All
one.
right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks for hanging. We'll talk to you on the other side. Even you, Andrew. Thank you for everybody for joining us. And have a great night.
Bye.